Today's the day, folks.
Indeed it is, Phil. The long-awaited trial of Gertrude will commence this afternoon.
Earlier today, we sent reporters to investigate the general consensus of the trial.
John Lee here with Channel 5 News, standing outside the state of Denmark trial house. As you can see, the trial between the state of Denmark versus Gertrude will be taking place here in just any moment now. And we're about to begin.
Thank you, John. Uncertainty, uncertainty, uncertainty. That seems to be the looming factor in this case.
This just in, the trial is now beginning. We will switch you over momentarily. Both parties have been sworn in. All rise for the Honorable Judge Barton.
You may be seated. We will now start with the opening statement.
Good evening, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Despite being overshadowed by Claudius's calculating and conniving ways, Gertrude, in a more subtle sense, has proven that she's so strong and so manipulative that she was capable of betraying her own husband and then taking her own life as a result of the guilt that she felt for her actions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do not fall for my opponent's false sense of passion. Gertrude is in fact a weak woman, constantly indulging in material objects and the attention of men. We find Gertrude married to Claudius only 1 month after the king's death and oblivious to Hamlet's distress. Thank you.
We will now be examining evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Prosecution's first piece of evidence comes shortly after Hamlet slayed Polonius. To quote the event, if I may. "As kill a king and marry his brother," said Hamlet after he slayed Polonius. Gertrude replied, "As kill a king?" in such a shocked way that it revealed the guilt she had. She was surprised that Hamlet knew her part in the death of King Hamlet. Thank you.
Your Honor, to assume Gertrude's reaction indicated involvement in the king's murder is a long shot. It is much more likely that Gertrude was unaware of the whole situation and was sincerely questioning Hamlet. Also, if she knew of the poisoning, the conversation wouldn't have happened in the first place.
Your Honor, despite my opponent's hasty and deceitful counterarguments, there is more proof of Gertrude's guilt. On page 175, she clearly admits that Hamlet has turned her eyes into her very soul, and that she sees it tainted with black and grain spots. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is yet another piece of evidence indicating her manipulative and malicious nature. She was an accomplice in the murder of the old King Hamlet, and now she's feeling guilty.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is bull. Gertrude only felt remorseful for remarrying so hastily and so inconsiderate to Hamlet's feelings, not because she was guilty of the murder of the king. And her pleas for Hamlet were only to stop him speaking so aggressively towards her.
Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you not to fall for these lies. The facts clearly portray Gertrude as an independent and conniving individual. She does not feel inclined to listen to her husband. Rather, she does what she feels will bring her happiness and peace. On page 227, Gertrude commits suicide because she cannot live with herself any longer. Claudius orders her, "Do not drink," from the poisoned cup. Her response, "I will, my lord. I pray you pardon me." In other words, forgive me for what I am about to do. Gertrude is very much her own person, and she was so at the time of King Hamlet's death, just as she was during her own death. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my opponent is obviously treating this trial as some sort of a competition. After the queen drinks from the wine, Claudius says to himself, "It is the poison cup, it is too late." By saying this, it is made clear that Gertrude had no knowledge of the poison wine, only the king did. Being unaware of the wine, Gertrude did not take her own life consciously.
Does the prosecution have a witness?
Your Honor, the prosecution calls Hamlet to the stand. Hamlet, is it? Can you please tell the jury what you think your mother's involvement in the death of your father was?
I'm very certain that my mother did play a vital role in the murder of my father. When I was approached by the ghost, he referred to Claudius as an adulterous beast, proving my mother and Claudius had a prior relationship before my father's death.
So then, Hamlet, can you explain that event? Can you tell us the events that occurred, like following and leading up to Polonius's death?
Leading up to Polonius's death, I decided to create a mousetrap play to see if Claudius was indeed guilty of my father's murder. Due to his reaction, he was guilty, and I followed him into the chamber to kill him. However, he was praying, so I decided not to, for if I did, he would be sent straight to heaven. Then I went to my mother's chambers to speak to her, and there I saw a man, I think it was King Claudius. I went to the curtains, stabbed them, and dropped Polonius.
Does the defense want to cross-examine?
Your mother remarried very quickly. What can you make of her dependence on a man? I think it's pretty apparent, my mother's dependency for a male influence on her life. I mean, she married my uncle 1 month after my father died. Who does that? Between your mother and Claudius, who would you say is the bigger manipulator? I'd have to say Claudius, without a doubt.
Does the defense have a witness?
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Gertrude to the stand. Gertrude, a woman as beautiful as you are would obviously attract a lot of attention. Am I right?
Oh. Well, you see, I had some gentlemen callers in my day. They always called me the pretty one.
These men of yours, they provide you a great deal of wealth, would you say?
Well, yeah, they like to buy me all kinds of gifts. Like this scarf, for instance.
How much was that scarf?
I'd say about 6 ox. Give or take a few chickens.
Could you ever see yourself without a husband?
Well, financially, I think I might be able to support myself. But the emotional strain, not being able to spend my days with a loved one, I don't know if I could bear it.
Does the prosecution want to cross-examine?
Did you love your old husband? Of course I loved my old husband. What kind of a question is that? And how long after your husband's passing did you say that you remarried? It's been about a whole entire month. And what side of the bed do you sleep on?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Well, before it was the right side. But Claudius always sleeps on his left side, so whenever we cuddle, it would just be weird. So I took the left side. Would you say you're a strong and ambitious woman? Or a frail, weak, and mindless sap?
Objection, Your Honor. Badgering.
Sustained.
Let me rephrase the question. How would you describe yourself? I'm a passionate woman. Sure, I run to my man when I'm in distress, but that doesn't mean I can't cope with my own problems. And just like any other woman, sometimes the distress gets to me. Then I need the support of another man. The death of my husband was a tragedy. So sure, I need a new one. But does that make me a criminal for that? No further questions, Your Honor.
A short recess will be taken to reach a verdict.
Wow, there's some intense debating going on in there, though it seems the prosecution does have the edge.
Yeah, but I think that the defense has some very valid arguments.
Let's go back to John and see what he has to say on the subject.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Troy at Target. What makes an independent woman?
I thought this was supposed to be. Oh, okay. An independent woman, she thinks on her own, acts on her own, listens, understands, but is still a free spirit.
What makes a woman independent?
Pay her own bills.
Earn a living on their own without being dependent on a male.
Basically, they're independent thinking the way they...
Yeah. Independent thinking. Now, what makes a woman manipulative?
Basically the same thing that makes them independent.
Yeah. Now, what makes a woman manipulative?
I'd say being controlling in any sort of like friendship or relationship.
Saying things she doesn't mean to get away.
Using her power to manipulate to get men to do what she wants them to do.
Somebody who does stuff that is according to her will and not necessarily in the spirit of what others want.
Alright, and a character from the book of Hamlet. Gertrude. What do you think she is, manipulative or independent?
Probably more.
Manipulative. Do you believe that she is manipulative or independent?
Manipulative.
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 Independently manipulative.
Gertrude is definitely manipulative.
Great answer. And would you repeal the 19th Amendment, which is women's right of voting?
I don't know.
You don't know? All right.
I'm undecided.
I don't know. I guess I have to know more about it.
Women's voting right.
Oh, no, definitely not that one, but I would actually repeal women's suffrage.
Yeah.
You can't have women suffering, that's for sure.
Yeah. Would you repeal the 19th Amendment?
Hasn't it already been? No.
Alright guys, you heard it here.
Interesting stuff, John. Interesting stuff.
That it was, and now the jury has reached a verdict, so we're switching you guys back to the courtroom.
As the jury reached a verdict,
We have reached a verdict, Your Honor. We, the jury, find the... Well, that's all we have for you, viewers.
On behalf of Channel 5 News, good
Good
night.
night.